One Saturday long ago, when I was a young art student, first enthralled with the dream of becoming a painter, I visited the Leo Castelli Gallery on Green Street in Soho to see an exhibition of paintings by Jasper Johns. This was a time when I'd been fortunate enough to find my way back to art school after a few years working within the confines of the windowless cinder-block walls of the factory. The world of modern art had been opened up to me by the lectures of Irving Sandler, and though I was by this time familiar with the name Jasper Johns, I knew nothing of his work. But I'd read a review of this particular exhibition in the New York Times and was excited to see it. Decades later, that show still resonates with me, and the paintings I experienced that day continue to hum like a tuning fork inside my mind and imagination. I remember little else of that day in Soho other than it was a cold, gray February afternoon. I don't recall who I was with or where I was before or after. The gallery was cavernous, low-lit and warm, a welcome respite from the winter weather. And while I'm sure there must have been a crowd, I have no memory of anyone else in attendance. John's large canvases hung on the white walls around the perimeter of the voluminous exhibition space, empty but for several benches arranged between the tall white columns punctuating the room. The entire arrangement conveyed an aura of significance. I walked from one end of the gallery to the other, deliberately following the paintings like a trail of breadcrumbs. I recall I thumbed through a magazine on the receptionist's counter featuring an article about John's new work. The artist himself stared out from its pages, his imposing visage looking me right in the eye, daring me to call his bluff. So many years later, it seems in my mind as though the entire event was constructed for my convenience, my edification, as though his paintings had been painted for me. But I know that's not how it was. How much of what I recall is real, and how much artful construction? How much of what I call my memory is fact, and how much fiction? Have I merely embellished what was, or have I sewn it from whole cloth? Was I ever there at all? Nothing I'd experienced of art or painting had prepared me for the effect of those canvases upon my soul, spirit, imagination, heart, consciousness. There's something art and music can do that transcends the verbal, that renders analysis and description meaningless, a direct line of communication from artist to viewer, unimpeded by words, unsupported by technology, uncorrupted by intellect. As I stood there before the canvases on the wall, it was more like an intimate dialogue than an act of looking. John's painting struck me as totemic, mysterious, enigmatic, a receptacle of secrets hinted at, teased, but never revealed. And yet, I heard a voice, murmuring in low tones, so low as to be barely audible, in a language of no words. The painting spoke, and I listened. In that moment, I understood what Johns was saying to me, but if you asked, I couldn't repeat it. Whether that message was what the artist originally intended hardly seems to matter when measured by the work's effect upon me. How is it a particular arrangement of material and form can affect one onlooker so deeply, and yet another not at all? How is it spirit and thought can be encapsulated within its borders, and yet find their way to a viewer across a room? Is it simply a matter of technique, of seduction, of the elite communal bond of fashion, education, or taste? Or is it something more immediate, a recognition of something of oneself within its frame, a reflection previously hidden, revealing something as yet unacknowledged, but no less true? Its value not in what it reveals about the artist, but in what it tells us about ourselves. I left the gallery that February afternoon so long ago, a different artist than I might otherwise have been. And while at that time my fellow students were enthralled to the demonstrative gestures of Basquiat, Baselitz, and Kiefer, I took to studying the chess moves of a master strategist. I became fascinated with John's body of work for its depth, its thought, its sensuality, humor, and absurdity, the layers of meaning and the cancellation of meaning, the thing and not the thing, any one of 100 reasons, sometimes all at once. Within the quietude of John's contemplative paintings, I'd found a place resonant with understated meaning. The thick encaustic preserving each hand-directed brushstroke, the layers of imagery and iconography suggesting questions asked and unresolved, secrets shared yet unrevealed. In his prints and sculptures, he could be somewhat more improvisational, even funny at times, reminding one that while he was serious, he was never too far from cracking a joke. Like Duchamp, he was a bit of a wise-ass, a quality all too rare in one of his stature, for which I revere it all the more. Few artists have been held up to as much scrutiny, analysis, and mythologizing as Jasper Johns, warranted or not. Whatever we make of it doesn't matter to me now. I'm not interested in solving the puzzle of Jasper Johns, as intriguing as that may be. Why pull the mask off the Lone Ranger? The result can only disappoint. Perilous night, racing thoughts in the studio. Each of these arresting canvases left something within me, some marker or buoy I've returned to time and again, consciously or not, as I return to them now. The titles speak of danger, fear, anxiety, the process by which we internalize and repurpose pain through art. More than any artist I know, John's work encapsulates the process of meandering thought, dialogue, and inspired intuition transposed to hand, that mystic alchemy that happens in the artist's studio. And in these remarkably brave and personal works, John showed me how to overcome the potentially debilitating effects of despair, of depression, through reinvention, through the work. The studio is sanctuary, incubator, a place of regeneration. Over the years, I've been excited by the work of innumerable artists in a variety of fields. Yet as my own restless journey has taken me from one medium to another, one context to another, Jasper Johns has been a constant, whispering slyly in my ear about what art is and has been, and what it can be. About what an object forged by one solitary individual working alone in a studio, lost in thought, can mean to another across a lifetime. Its secrets shared, but never revealed. In that time, I've been lucky enough to find I have secrets of my own.